Good afternoon, Facebook. And this is Selba again with the video. I'm filming it at night because this is something I do secretly because they don't like me to film this, especially the devil. And today we're going to focus on the topic One Flesh, which is about marriage. And like I said before, I got married on my first date. I arrived at the church, or the Catholic church, and the lady married us with a priest's book, Real Vows. And that was the first thing we did. And we danced a little bit and we went home. I was 17 years old. He was not even, I think he was barely 17 or 16. And I didn't drive, neither did my husband. Now, we didn't drive. I didn't have a dress. I had a veil. I had a white sweater. And God knew I was going to get married that day. It was predestined. I see it in my baptism pictures. My mom was dressed in red. I always wore red. And that was because my husband was the leader of the Juarez cartel in the Familia Michoacana. And he, the color is red. So I'm the queen pin of the East Siders. Now, he was 17. I was 17. And we agreed to say the vows, and we got married. Now it was a woman that married us, and the ones that performed the the what's it called, the sacrament is the male and the female, not the priest, and it was on holy ground. Now, if the church ever wants to switch to women to marry people, got very legitimate already. But that's up to the church if they want to employ women to marry people, which I think they can. And they can baptize too, like deaconess. And there was deaconess in the Bible. But the topic today is marriage. And we didn't pay for the dress, we didn't pay for cake, no rings. This wedding was like $20, whatever the tickets to the dance was. And we had a few witnesses in Salty Road. And God thought that was a perfect marriage for me. 17, no high school diploma yet. And he had a baby mama already. And and the reason he shouldn't have stepped with that girl is because God had him for me already. We were predestined. But she denied the paternity to my husband. And he didn't have to pay child support. All his life he never knew he had a daughter. But he had a daughter already. But God already destined him for me. And at first I thought this lady just married us by the church. This is how marriage feels like. But then I said, no, this is a woman that married us. And back then there was Google, except the phone didn't have Google yet. So I didn't Google it up. So I shook it off and never thought about it till after he went to heaven, and then realized that I was married all this time, that I was Miss Reese. And my husband, I didn't know. This is what I found out. He was a Chapito, hijo del Chapo Guzman, son of Chapo Guzman. And he was an insider, kingpin. He was the leader of the Familia Michoacana and Juarez cartel. And I would see him with his gang when he used to date me when he was my husband. But when he used to date me, he had a bunch of pals come over, some of them dressed in red, and they would adhere to his commands. Now, never thought about it that he was a kingpin, but I knew he was the leader of probably like a small gang. No, but it was the real Cheeto. Anyways, I didn't know he was the leader of the Juarez cartel or Familia Michoacana. I always thought he was just a regular paisa, and he worked construction. He had a decent job. He was a hard worker. He never went to school. That's another thing that that that's something that I thought it was the perfect marriage. I was bad at school. I was a lazy student, and he never went to school. He worked for his poor family, and his family adopted him. He was adopted. So we dated for 4 years, and we would make out, and I would climax really fast. Like within minutes, I would have multiple orgasms just by kissing him and being with him. Well, now we didn't have full sex because I was afraid of my dad. Um, Previously, my sister had a boyfriend, and they had fled to the cemetery. They ditched, and my dad almost killed him with a knife. And I thought if I sleep with this guy and end up pregnant, he's gonna kill him. And I love my husband. I didn't want anything to happen to him, but he had the right to sleep with me because he was my husband. And but I never did fully sleep with him. We would just make out, and I would climax and have multiple orgasms. And I thought that was sex. Now, like if I say in the future, I will sleep with other men, and I will never have any orgasms. I won't even start to have them. I wouldn't even start to climax at all. And that was because they weren't my husbands. They were his brother, his biological brother that he didn't find out because El Chapo had a bunch of kids. And I slept with him. I gave him my virginity after my husband got in a wreck. In 4 years, I waited for him. And then he said to move on because my husband was dying and he was paralyzed, neck down, because of my sacrilege I made. I made a sacrilege in church at Light and Confession because I had impurity and I was a secretary. And I had an impurity problem because I was turned on because I was married. And I lied in confession because I was embarrassed because the priest was my boss. And I lied, and then I went to communion. And before you know it, my husband was paralyzed neck down. and he was paying it for me because we were one, and he was the head of the organism, just like God the Father is head of Christ. They're one with the Holy Spirit, three in one. So is my husband and I were one, and he paid for my sacrilege. And anyways, I slept with another man that was his brother, and I didn't have any orgasms whatsoever. I never even climaxed at all. I didn't even get excited at all. And that's because my body wasn't programmed for him. Neither the other guy I tried sleeping with. They had bigger dicks. My husband had a small dick, but I never had full sex with him because by the time I got back to him, he was paralyzed and he was impotent. But even though the other guys, I gave him my virginity, I liked the guy. I fell in love with him too. But in the inside, I still love my husband, and and my body wasn't programmed for him, so I never climaxed, not even started, and neither did the next guy. And then the next guy, after my husband passed away, and he went to heaven, and that was called fornication. The other one adultery, the other one fornication, and so I didn't climax with him for fornication either, and that was because I'm not connected to him. Your bodies are not connected. Your body's not programmed for any other guy except for the one that's your husband. And nowadays, it's the woman that initiates the divorce. Back in the days, it was a man, and men had control of their lives. Men had the control, but men decided that they weren't going to get married. They weren't going to have the suffering, that they were going to have the easy plate of just being with a girl with no spouse, with 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 no with no tying down, and the woman's not and the woman's not programmed for him, and she never climaxes. She never has any orgasms. I had multiple orgasms with my husband, and she never orgasms. And before you know it, sex, it's not sex, it's a chore because it's boring. And it just becomes a one thing for just for him maybe. But the woman does no excited. She might like it, but it's still boring because she doesn't get no orgasms, no climax. And before you know it, it's short. And if she already had a kid with you, it's gonna be a short, and plus she don't want to get pregnant again because having a kid is still a newsy. And when you're married, the woman is turned on all the time with her husband. I was turned on all the time for my husband. I was very turned on that I had an impurity problem. And when I was next to him, to my husband, even paralyzed, I wanted to get it on. I was horny, but he couldn't do anything anymore because he was paralyzed. But I was the only one that could do stuff. But even though I was so turned on, and that was because I was married to him. And if if you're not married, if sex just becomes a chore. And before you know it, the woman doesn't want to have sex with you anymore. She thinks you're probably not the wrong guy. She doesn't climax. She probably doesn't even like you as much. She might have a crush, but true love is only you get it through marriage. I never loved my husband when I got married with him because it was our first date. I barely knew him, but within weeks I fell madly in love with him because he was my husband. And and so it becomes a shorter and women initiate divorce. And men end up paying child support. They end up paying alimony and end up like dogs because they lose all their money to a woman that got pregnant by them, or they ask for alimony, and they can't even get another relationship because they're so in debt that they don't even get any money to even get a room. They end up even being homeless. They end up have to crash with their parents again, like my brother. And they completely get their lives ruined. Now, they say if I get protection, I'll never get married. But you never know. God gets creative, and they all get you pregnant. And and you don't want to have abortions. And this is why we have so many abortions, because a lot of people don't want to get pregnant in the first place, but they have sex, and they end up having an abortion and killing a human being. And God wants thinks the fetus has a privilege as a regular person. That's according to Jesus. Now, like according to my video that I made last time, um, Jesus said this is why they call us idolaters in the Eucharist, and he was questioning me why my remark. And Jesus, who he is he? He's a fetus in the Guadalupe Virgin, and and God is also one with Mary because she's the wife of God. She says, "Here I am, the slave of the Lord." And that means she got married. She said, "I do." She becomes his slave, and and that's what women become. Become the slave of the man. They you're not supposed to treat them like dogs, but you treat them with respect. But the woman's there to serve the man, especially when they get married. They're programmed to serve the man, and I was programmed to serve my husband. And going back, I married him, and I didn't have a clue that he was a kingpin. I didn't have a clue that he was a chapito. I didn't have a clue that his mother-in-law would lend us money for the business. I didn't have a clue his brother and the stepfather of his daughter was the the guy that would lend us money for our business that we started after he got in a wreck, after he got electrocuted because of my sacrilege, and he got electrocuted and got paralyzed, neck down. Now he can move one hand and maybe the other a little bit, and maybe he can text on the phone, and that's how he got by, texting and selling drugs. And but he was a kingpin, and and I will move the business for him because his his men, my foremen, were his foremen. My foremen were his foremen in the drug industry. They were from the Familia Michoacana. And the first thing that we did when we worked our business, our orange business, was them. And the last thing that we had in the orange business was them. My business, the business, it was a $3 million business. Lasted from the time he got in a wreck till after he died. In a year after he went to heaven. and then we lost it. My brother got the business, but that was because I didn't have to support him anymore. There was really no point except for support myself. But I told my husband I didn't want the business anymore, so my brother took it, and I kind of regretted it because now I depend on Social Security for for to eat. But but I don't work anymore like a dog. Now I do God's work. I promote marriage. I promote God and, and defending a lot of Catholic stuff that God showed me when He appeared to me. So all these years, 15 years, that my husband was paralyzed and living in Mexico, um, he would do his business, his drug business, and he was the leader of and the boss of the people that work for me. And I would do the invoices, I would do the workers' comp and reports, I would do the accounting, I would do the payroll, I would keep the store open, I would do I will go get cash with my mom. I will also keep the house clean. Now, at the end, when we were so busy because we had up to 100 workers, we would hire a maid to clean the house. But before that, I would clean the house and make sure my mom would do her side of the job in the business. And she was married to the orange man, which was my dad. She knew the managerial portion of it, the deals, how to get the oranges. She knew about oranges, the packing houses, all the stuff. She got it because she was married to my dad, the orange man, the orange farm worker. And my sister, she supported her husband because he wasn't making any money through his drug business, and she would support him working for us. And but at the end, she quit. My dad made her quit because they were getting divorced, my parents, and that was because of me. And she would support her husband with the job, and she would even bring her baby in, and my mom would do the managerial part, and I would do the accounting part, and I learned that from high school. God prepared me for my marriage in high school. All the skills I learned was in high school. The stuff I learned in college was for the experiment to understand it, to understand the science. God wanted me to understand the science that He made in the body, that He connects the body, the mind, and soul in the universe for those two couples to be one, to be one, and to function as one. And the woman functions for the husband. Now, we were going to get married twice, my husband through civil court. The first time was because my dad didn't want me to let go of me because I was the one that cleaned the house and reared the kids and washed the laundry. And it was 12 kids. And my mom would probably be occupied in her work, and he thought that maybe the house will be 30, and so he didn't let me get married. And the second time my husband was crippled, my family didn't approve of it, and I tried to get married to the civil court. But God didn't want it that way. He didn't want me thinking I was his husband, my husband. He wanted me to think that I was single, so the experiment could go on, and me find out all this stuff about marriage without being biased, with thinking that I was single, but I actually was married. And like I said, I slept with the brother, his biological brother, another Chapito, and I couldn't climax with him. And women initiate divorces nowadays, and men have no control of their lives. They end up being babies for 15, 18 years, depending on their mother or their father, because they can't even afford a room with the money they make after child support is taken out, or after alimony, because they decided to just do it civilly and not through the church. And in this video, I'm making it um, because I want the priest to know, and to they can show it to teenagers so they can learn. And I'll be doing speeches for teenagers. That's my plan. But if they tie me down, I have this video. So thank you very much. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you very much. Bye.